Hello and welcome to another End User Talk podcast. I'm your hostess, Jamila, your Lady in Tech. Hello, I want to welcome you, Storm, to the End User Talk podcast. I also want to say thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join me today. How are you doing?
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm doing very, very well. Thank you. I'm enjoying the blistering heat at the moment in Italy, and I'm struggling myself. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking. Well, I'm in Texas, so we do have some pretty hot weather here as well. So
me complaining must seem like so low level compared to what you guys have to deal with.
Hey, you know what? Hot is hot. I don't care where you are on the planet. So no, it's not a complaint at all. It is just a commonality that we experience in any climate, rather. So no, not a problem at all. So, just so we kind of get familiar with who you are and what you do you mind giving us a brief introduction?
Sure. I am I'm a digital artist based in London, usually. I work a lot in pre and post production with a variety of different production houses and private clients, basically meaning I do the storyboarding, the drawing, the video editing, and the compositing afterwards, depending on the client. And I work as a commercial model as well.
Wow, that sounds so exciting. It sounds full of just different experiences with each responsibility or role that you have. May I ask, of all the things that you do, is there one thing in particular that you enjoy, or are they all pretty equal?
I would say they all provide me with something, valuable that makes me happy, which is probably why I do so many different things. But I think the one that's closest to my heart is art, illustration work. That one's the one that makes me the happiest.
So when you say illustration, and I did hear you state that you have a client base. So I take it that you are an independent artist. With that being said, with your clients, you do all of you take on clients and you take on different projects. What does that consist of, or what does a day look like when you're working on projects?
Well, it depends, because the needs of the clients changes depending on whether you've got like an individual that's commissioning you for like a custom piece of artwork, like an illustration of a friend or a family member, to like a company that needs to pitch a project. So a lot of the time the day starts with liaising with the client to make sure that I understand the brief that they want perfectly, because a lot of sometimes you charge by the day and they want to make sure that they're getting it right the first time, for obvious reasons. And, once the liaising is done, then I just kind of start working, and I check back with the clients at different stages of the project. So after a first pass, or after color is being added, after the initial sketch, and I just kind of keep going like that until the project's completed.
And that makes sense. Each client it's a custom experience, and project with each client. So clearly, yes, the approach that you take with each project would be different. Now, as far as, and I may have missed this, I apologize. What is the specific title, that you do in this particular field of art?
It's difficult because I'm a bit of a generalist. So I started as a 2D animator. My creative career, I started in animation, and gradually, unless you like really specialize, you find yourself being a bit of a jack of all trades. You learn how to fit in everywhere in the creative industry just so you can get work. So I just brand myself as a digital artist because I am capable of doing various different digital jobs, online.
Now, did you go to school, college, or are you I guess the word would be, are you self-taught?
No, I mean, that's an interesting one because I think everyone is self-taught to a certain extent. You have to kind of motivate yourself after a while. But I did go to a art institute after secondary school, or I think high school, and I studied animation production there for 5 years effectively.
Did that come easy for you? Or I guess I should say, have you always wanted to be in some aspect or field of art yourself, or did that come after maybe being exposed to it in some way, form, or fashion?
No, actually, art was not my first passion. It was something that, as my parents are very creative, very geeky people, my sister and I grew up with a lot of cartoons and comic books. So that was part of our home environment. So it was something that I kind of grew up with seeing and enjoying, but I initially wanted to be a surgeon. And I hadn't realized how expensive medical school was. And being like, I don't know, 15 or 16 at the time, not really understanding how student loans work, thinking my parents would have to pay for it. I thought, you know what, let me not put that burden on them, and do something else that I enjoy, something else that makes people happy. And that was the only other thing I was really good at. So I pursued that instead.
Well, that's good. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Me, myself personally in school, after finishing high school, I had no idea in which direction or path I would take. I used to have the ability to draw. I've gotten away from that. I love art. And of course, art comes in so many it's a broad subject. And art can be expressed in music. It could be expressed in dance, traditional art, painting, drawing, sketching. There's so many ways for someone who has an artistic aura about them. So many different ways you can express yourself. So me, myself, I had no idea what my next path should have been. I did go to college. I didn't stay there, unfortunately, because again, I was lost, and computers and technology didn't come to me until late in life. So you have individuals or students that are like that now, and they have this pressure. You need to go to college. You need to know exactly what it is you need to do or are going to do for a career. And you might find a handful of students who actually have a plan down. But then you have the majority of the students that have no idea. But if you have a student that is interested in taking part in art, if you were to advise them or give them any type of direction, how would you advise or encourage them?
One thing I learned through going through arts at an art college and art university, and then seeing what people were capable of doing. YouTube was getting big when I was at uni and things like that, and all those resources started becoming available online. I would say there is no one way into art. You do not have to go and study at a fancy institute to be able to call yourself an artist, to call yourself a professional. To be an artist, you have to create art. And whichever medium you choose, like you mentioned, whether that's dance or painting or music, there are resources out there for you. So don't stress yourself and put yourself into debt thinking that you need to go to the most prestigious school in order to do that. That's something I would have told myself had I had the chance to do it over again.
I think that's great advice. Now, you grew up in London, so clearly things are a little different in that part of the world. But we're going to have a lot of people, hopefully, who will hear the sound of your voice today and all of the different experiences that you're going through. What I have been doing with my podcast is just interviewing young Black men and women who are influential in different areas and different platforms, careers, fields, entrepreneurial roles, and artistry, and even gaming. And the one commonality that I found, regardless to where people are in the world, is that there's not a lot of exposure to Black people in some of these fields. And
it's true.
And, that can kind of be discouraging, especially with what you just mentioned. Don't beat your head up about trying to get into the most prestigious school or having a plan right off the bat, because things in life we all know can change. But being able to try to pick a career or a field of study and you don't see a lot of people that look like you in that area, that can be a little discouraging.
Oh, 100%.
And sometimes it's hard to consider yourself being the first one to break into an industry. That within itself can be a bit jarring. So you do a lot in the areas and the experiences and the fields that you've had. Do you see the same lack of exposure or representation in modeling and in the art industry, in any other field that you've practiced in? Do you see that lack as well?
Yeah, like I mentioned, my first full-time animation job, I was the only Black person in the entire studio. On my floor, I was the only woman. And every studio I've worked in subsequent to that, there just aren't that many Black people, let alone people of color, in that sector, really. And then with the whole modeling industry, it's better now than it was when I started, but you still have the whole being used as the token for diversity, and you're hyper aware of when that happens, and it's sad when you're being used to represent your entire ethnic group.
It's definitely very daunting, and as I stated, being the first in anything. Now, occasionally being the first in certain areas or fields, it's great, it's pioneering, but at the same time, being the first, sometimes there's a lot that's thrown at you. You have a major responsibility to make sure that you're representing not only yourself, but your family and your friends and whomever might lay eyes upon you. That representation can be so overwhelming that, you might decide, I'm not ready for that. I'm going to let the next person do it. But yeah, so just being Black in a lot of different roles, it can be a very stressful and challenging experience. Do you think, or do you have an opinion, I guess, on ways that we can kind of improve that? I know that we've come a long way in some areas, but what do you think we need to do, or how can we help to improve the representation of the Black experience in some of these other roles or areas?
That's a difficult one, because we do a lot. I see Twitter, for example, there's always these amazing hashtags that trend from time to time, like the Drawing While Black ones, and where they get threads to try and get Black artists or artists from certain regions to post their art to give exposure. The thing is that we're doing a lot to kind of shine a spotlight on what we're doing and what our peers are doing. It's a lot of the times it's for the people that are hiring in the studios to be looking out for us. When the whole Black Lives Matter movement hit its apex, a lot of the companies started talking about, we want to see your work, we want to work with you, send us your stuff. And it's nice on the one hand, but the other hand, it's like we've been showing you our stuff for the longest time. Where the hashtags are if you want to, go and find us. It's a group project, we're doing our work. We've done our work. They just need to, open their eyes and look at what we're doing. We just have to keep going.
So it's basically, you're saying, you're simply saying it's not for us to fix the issue, basically.
It's not. It sounds it sounds a bit stubborn, I suppose, but I don't feel like we're doing anything wrong and that there is any more that we can do than what we're doing. We're doing a great job. We are creating, which is all we need to do. We're taking the opportunities as they come up. Whenever these exposure tags and trends come up, we follow them, we go to them, and they've had great effects on our work. Like they've helped me in the past when I've joined in the hashtag. I've gotten work from those sort of things. But it's also responsibility of the people in power, if you like, to make sure that they're hiring a diverse group of people, of talent. If they know that's going to be a problem, then the resources are there.
And that does make sense. We are here. We have the ability. We have the talent. We have the skills. We just need to be given the opportunities. And I'm seeing on Twitter all the hashtags. And what we want to do is make sure that this is permanent and it's not like a phase or a fad. We don't want you just to jump on the bandwagon. We want to make sure that there are Black people put in significant roles, roles that can actually promise. And again, I don't want this to be just a Black thing. It's not that. Having variety in all cultures and representing all races is very important, because you travel anywhere in the world, you're not going to see one group of people there. Not unless you're intentionally going somewhere where only that group of people are going to be there. So we live in a world that is a melting pot, and we have much better personal relationships, points of views, perspectives, and we can clear up racism if we give people the opportunity and the benefit of a doubt of being able to experience people on their own instead of reading or seeing all of these racist comments that come about. And it's so funny because my daughter's in the Air Force, and I have a cousin he's a pilot in the Air Force, and they've had the opportunity of traveling the world, which the average Black person generally cannot travel too many places for a number of reasons. But their experiences, my cousin particularly being the pilot, he had the opportunity of going to Australia. His experience in Australia was you feel like a celebrity because.
Wow, really?
Yes. He said, I've actually had two cousins, one in the Navy and one in the Air Force. And their experience of being in Australia was they felt like they have never seen Black people before.
Wow.
And they were being approached, mostly women, they're men.
Okay.
One of my cousins, he was like, well, yeah, I mean, we were just, of course, they were ported there, so they have an opportunity to go and visit and tour. One of my cousins, he's dark skinned and very tall. He said, there were literally women coming out. They were in there with their men. They exited the restaurant and they're coming up to me.
Seriously?
Yes. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? And they're touching their skin and their hair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's, and you know what? This day and time, it is weird for me to hear someone say they've never seen Black people before.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a similar experience when I was in Japan in the South. And you know, it's one of those things where it's like, I can understand the curiosity, but in this modern age, you have TV, you have, you know, YouTube, you've seen us, you know, we exist. You know, you probably know and really like Beyonce. So the fact that you kind of look at me like I'm orange or something and you're that fascinated and you need to yank my hair or touch my skin to see if it's real.
Right.
It's a bit bizarre to say the least, you know? I'm all up for like curiosity. If you have a question, ask me, and a lot of people do, but I kind of draw the line at when, and it has happened before, when someone just kind of yanks at my braids or something and gives me whiplash. Yeah. I'm just like, okay, not happy.
Exactly. But yeah, it's just, I'm surprised and I'm overwhelmed at just, you've never come across a Black person once in your life. It's weird. It is.
It's super weird. But I also try to give people the benefit of the doubt when you visit very homogenous societies and countries. I mean, it's a little bit weird for me coming from London, where literally every type of person under the sun exists, to going to a place where, you know, that diversity is significantly reduced. So, you know, I try to be sympathetic, but it is still very weird.
It is. And unfortunately, because of that, we are still going to have these, impasses and these depths between us, and like we're science projects, if you will. But anyway, that is what it is. But I don't know. I just think it's strange. But even still, I noticed that we discussed hair. I noticed that you also embrace your natural hair. Is that something that you've always embraced, or is this something you've grown into as an adult woman?
As an adult, actually, I did not start wearing my hair naturally until, I never had it chemically treated as a child. My mum was firmly against that. She used to braid our hair or, stick it in extensions or straighten it with a flat iron. But I never wore it in an afro until I graduated from uni, again, when YouTube was getting really big. And then in America, all of these natural hair YouTubers were coming out. And I just thought, wow, I want to give that a go. And then I haven't worn my hair straight since.
Right. And with the natural hair movement, again, it's one of those situations to where it is difficult for you to embrace things that, especially with our hair, naturally, or organically, as some people like to say. It's difficult, and you don't always want to be the first one to do it because of the scrutiny that you get.
Absolutely.
Right. So even if you weren't someone who is an entrepreneur who can pretty much set their own dress code and hairstyle code, you're not restricted. If you're working in a corporate America or certain environments, actually, I've spoken with some other young women who are models as well, and they've gone to auditions, and they were either told, we're looking for someone lighter or darker. We're looking for someone with straight hair, or we don't need this particular role to be fulfilled with someone with that type of texture. They've been denied roles because of that, or job opportunities. So it's almost as if we are forced to do all of this changing just to be accepted, when these are things that we have naturally. Our full lips, our different skin tones, and our hair. We can't be accepted for who we are. You personally, have you experienced this challenge, or do you find it a challenge in anything that you've done?
Yes. I mean, the industry, that particular side of the industry is nothing more than visuals and front facing. They have an idea in mind, whether that be using a black girl with a particular type of curl, or having just the right shade of tan skin. That decision is made up long before any of us walk through the door. And the difficulty is kind of being at peace with you and who you are, and not allowing the casting director or whoever to, invalidate you, I guess. Like, just because they were looking for a girl with straight hair doesn't mean that you're not good. It means that they were looking for something else. It's just like with any job, and there are jobs for us. They do exist. And as the world has become louder and demanding more diversity, there are places for us. And I hesitate to say, us. A model is a person that is able to promote a product, nothing more. So if you are promoting lipstick, essentially you just need to have nice shaped lips. Doesn't matter your skin color, unless they're using a particular color. You know what I mean? It has you as a model. I don't believe it's much more than that advertising job. A lot of people put a lot of glamour and prestige behind it, but I don't feel it's like that. And when you're promoting a product, you have to get the right person for the job. Obviously, you wouldn't see someone like me promoting Head and Shoulders, maybe because it's not for my hair type, but it would also be weird to see a white woman promoting something specifically for someone with a darker skin texture. You find the right person for the job. And they are out there. I'm not sure if that's making any sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. So in anything, shouldn't be about sex. It shouldn't be about your background. It's about your ability to facilitate whatever this role is. It's your talent.
I think that should be the case that should be the case in every job. I am looking forward to the day when we don't have to meet a quota. I would like to have the job just because I'm good at what I do, not because you need to fill a quota of a certain amount of Black people in your company. But we're not at that stage yet. And I understand that, and I accept that, and I understand the importance of us being represented the right way, because we haven't in the past. So until we're there as a society, then make sure you have the right number of different types of people in your company. But eventually I would like it to be like the right person is given the right job because they're good at the job. And I
believe that is the hope of most of us. We just want to be considered and granted opportunities based on our abilities, based on our skills,
right?
Whatever it is, whatever those requirements are to facilitate that particular role, fill that seat, sell that product, whatever it is, we just want to be given a fair chance. And again, not be considered as a quota. But keep in mind, the reason why quotas have been put in place is because we've never been given and treated fairly. Black people would not be in any roles that you see in if it had not been that those particular laws or policies weren't put in place. We'd still be denied. So that's 100%. Not even our doing.
And it's almost bittersweet,
exactly.
Right? Yeah. And it's like, it's a victory, but it's not really, because we had to force their hand to just give us equality. It's not like we're asking for the world. It's just to be given the same starting line. And it's just, it's mind boggling how something as simple as equality should be such a controversial, such a difficult subject.
I interviewed with someone else and they mentioned, I'm tired of being considered or being referred to as a diversity hire. Not when I've gone to school and I've either earned a degree, a certification, or a licensing, or if you placed a test before me and I met or exceeded the score, I'm not a diversity hire. You have put me in the on the same playing field, presented to me the same requirements in order to be selected or even considered. And I've met that. So don't refer to me as a diversity hire when I earned it fair and square. And that makes a lot of sense. What else is frustrating is that every time we as a Black male and female, we communicate, this is where our conversations lead. We unfortunately, generally when we're having a casual conversation, generally it leads to conversations like this or experiences like this. It would be nice to once be able to just have a conversation and say, you know what? That was a good time. Or
it's tiring, isn't it?
And that's really with this podcast. That's what I'm talking about. We shouldn't have to always have these painful, humiliating discussions because of who we are as a people. We shouldn't have to always have discussions and prove ourselves 100 times over for things that we are qualified for. But yet you still time and time again have to continue to jump through hoops and prove that you deserve to be either paid a certain amount of money or to be given a particular role or responsibility. When I meet the minimum requirements that you set, I've proven myself. I shouldn't have to keep being questioned and jump through hoops to entertain you or to satisfy your inferior complex. You being threatened.
And this is why I said earlier, when we've done all that we needed to do, we are educated, we are skilled, we are talented. It's not there isn't anything else that we really can do. It's annoying that we have to wait for them to say, okay, we'll see you now. But that's what it feels like
insulting.
It is. And again, it's just bittersweet. Yeah, it is insulting. And we aren't in the position of power where we can sort of give the equal opportunities to, those that just need to be seen.
Exactly. And this is why, Storm, I'm doing what I'm doing is because of people like yourself. As I mentioned, going through high school and getting ready or prepared to go to college or whatever path I'm going to take, or I wanted to take or didn't know to take. You've done something that I didn't know was accessible to me, or I didn't have enough people around me to say, hey, these positions, these roles, these opportunities are here. Look at this list. Go through this list and you research and see if you can find someone doing it, or if you can look it up and find a definition or shadow some. I didn't have that. And I know that there are other people who don't. But what makes this transition so much easier is being able to hear people like yourself saying, I don't do just one thing. I do several things, which makes you a very well-rounded person. Because when most people think about work, they've done one job all of their lives and then they retire, or the hope is to retire at the end. Whoever thinks that, you know what, I don't have to do one job. I can do exactly.
No,
I can be a very well-rounded being, have all of these different experience and all of these different skills that I can put on a resume if I so choose. I can do whatever I want to do.
Honestly, if there was one piece of advice I could give to the younger generation that doesn't know what they want to do, it's just try everything. You never know. And it is so surprising. You never know what it is that might just click.
That's right.
With you. I thought I was going to be an animator. That's it. As soon as I went down that path, I studied, I got my degree. I burned through education. I had that mindset of, okay, you need to go through education, get further education, get higher education, get a job, get a house, get a mortgage, get a partner, and you have this plan that was set by society and not by you. And when you get stuck in there, I had, and the only way I could describe it was an existential crisis. I was tired. At 21, I was burnt out. And I'm sitting at my desk, getting there when it's dark, leaving when it's dark, hunched over my animating table, and just thinking, is this what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life? And I could not handle it at all. And to say that it made me a little bit depressed was like an understatement. I all of a sudden, this thing that I decided to dedicate my life to was making me miserable. I didn't want to draw when I got home. I didn't know that there were any other options. I didn't know that I could just freelance. Being a freelancer seemed like a surefire way to end up poor and homeless and nothing anyone ever would advise you to do. So I didn't know what to do with my life at that point. I just knew I was unhappy and I needed out.
That's amazing.
So I started traveling.
That is so amazing that you touch on that, because so many people, it lends back to what I mentioned earlier. We think that we're supposed to do one thing. You're supposed to go to college and you have to know what you want to do. And then when you go to college, you got to do that job. And then nobody talks about you doing that thing and it making you unhappy. You're miserable. And what if you chose the thing that you love to do and then you're working for a company and they have all of these strict rules and regulations and deadlines and you're just miserable. Yeah, you might be making good money, but where's your free time? Where is your me time?
Yeah.
And then you begin to loathe that thing that you love, but you also you're combated with the thing that everybody considers. We've heard the term a starving artist, and that's if you're a musician, if you're an actor or actress, artist. And everybody's like, can you go get a real job where you need to live? And we know that is a reality, right? But I'm a parent, and I have to tell you, if my daughters came to me at some point and said, Mom, I want to be an actress, and they haven't gotten a degree, or they don't really have a job that would allow them to pay rent and buy food. I don't know that I'd be on board with that either. And I have to just be realistic.
And that's completely fair. And I think what a lot of parents, especially, I think they miscommunicate that concern. It's a very real concern. The industry is fickle. You can be, riding high 1 minute and then maybe not get any bookings or any castings for 4 months. And the concern that your child's just not going to be able to make ends meet is a real one. But I've seen a lot of people just kind of dismiss the kid's passion of wanting to do that. And it's like, no. If you want to be an actor, there are ways to do it. Just know you're in for a tough journey. And my concern is that you're going to be able to put food on the table. So get a part-time job, something that pays the bills, and then keep going to castings, keep learning your lines, keep studying. That's what I did, because being a model is more or less the same. Sometimes I have a lot of work. Sometimes I have no work. And in between that, I do odd jobs. I work as a digital artist. I have lots of other things to do to make money. And at no point would I ever really have that being my sole job, just because I know how volatile that industry can be financially. But there's nothing wrong with pursuing it, so long as you're realistic and understanding that, yes, you actually need money. So just go make money on the side. You don't have to have a full-time job to be able to pursue your career, to keep food on the table. You can be creative with it and still go to castings on the weekend. And, it's not for everyone, because you do have to do a lot of juggling. It's a lot of work, but it's totally possible. And I just wish a lot of parents would be like, okay, if that's what you want to do, make sure you are able to feed yourself. And then,
I appreciate you for explaining that, because as a parent, I can only speak for myself. I don't ever want to smother my daughter's hopes or dreams or desires. You don't want to be, as people say, a dream killer. But at the same time, you don't want this unrealistic desire to be driven by something that is not realistic, or you don't have a plan B or a backup plan. And there's
you never want to put all your eggs in one basket. It's always good to, and accepting that is not accepting defeat and accepting that you could never be a model or something like that. That's not it at all. It's managing your expectations and making sure that you're able to survive. You take risks you can recover from. You never go all in.
This conversation is so helpful.
I agree with you.
It's very helpful, because I consider myself a realist, and I try to be a pretty fair individual. But when it comes to my daughters, it's a matter of, I need to not just be, I have to always be a parent. And you also want your children to be, well, they're adults now. I want them to be protected, but I want them to try to make sound decisions, and knowing that some of the decisions that they'll make will not always be right. But I don't want them to run into a brick wall or be blindfolded, because if you look at social media, if you look at Twitter, you're looking at all these people who post on Twitter, oh, I made my first $1 million overnight. There's all of this unrealistic success that's being posted. And then you see the YouTubers, the influencers, you see all of this stuff. And it appears that these people did this just last week or last night, and they're millionaires. They're driving these fancy cars. And I'm seeing kids younger than me buying their first homes, cash, beautiful homes. And so if I'm an adult and I'm looking at that and I'm like, I've done this all my life and I've never, I didn't have that opportunity can you imagine what young people are looking at, and the pressure to be popular?
Yeah.
And that's the fear you have as a parent looking at your children, because they're looking at social media, and that's what that's where their plans are laid. So they didn't go to college. They didn't go get a license. They're not working in corporate America. They just post videos. So your child wants that. And so it becomes it becomes combative, and it becomes, my parents don't support me. And that's not always the case. So
it's a difficult conversation to have for sure, but it's a necessary one because my parents, for better or for worse, and I think probably for better, they indulged in whatever flights of fancy my sister and I had. One minute we want to play the violin, next minute we want to try karate, and then we kind of hop around from things to things, and my parents would be like, all right, what you want to try now? And then kind of let us go and try, and they would talk to us and then kind of find out how we're feeling about it and, allow us to make up our own mind, to a certain extent, but at no point where we, when you're a child, your logic is so simple. The line, the answer from A to B is a straight line. And we know as you get older, it's not always the case, but children don't see that. And you have to communicate with them and say, okay, yes, you may want to get that million, but you posting a video isn't going to be the way to do it. You're going to, using YouTube videos as an example, there's a formula to it, right? You have to create the content. You have to be on topic if it's a trending theme or have something that's evergreen. You have to film it. You have to have the right lighting, the right sound. You have to, there's a lot of equations, lots of factors going into it, and it's not a straight line anymore. And then all of a sudden you've lost 24 hours because you can't sleep and you have to work on this thing to get it out by a certain time and do it all over again, same time next week.
Right.
And if that's what they want to do, then fine. Some people have the drive for that, but they don't understand that that's what it takes. They just see whoever the top influencer is and see the end of their journey, without realizing they haven't even started theirs yet.
I'm smiling right now because this is the real information that people need. Things do not happen overnight. You might have a handful of people where they did achieve overnight success, but whatever that success is, there's also some longevity with that. Can you maintain that? Because we know in this type of, in the entertainment, world and industry, whatever area it is, we know that there's always somebody behind you that can come up and take your spot. So how are you going to maintain longevity, and how are you going to stay interesting? Okay, this year you're a success, but 5 years from now, that's a short goal. Are you still going to be relevant 5 years from now? Are you still going to be bringing in that type of revenue? And, people don't consider that. And that's why I'm happy that you're here today. You've experienced something and the behind the scenes. And this is what helps when a parent can't help their child or a guardian help that person that they're responsible for see all aspects of this thing. People like yourself who are so influential in what you have to share. Somebody will listen to you.
I can only hope. But they're you know what it's like. I'm sure you, and I know I have, you have all these cautionary tales. People warn you about things, and then you feel like, I'll be fine. I know what I'm doing. And sometimes you have to fall in that hole yourself and climb out. One thing I've learned, especially when it comes to friends and family, is that I can't stop you falling in the hole, but I can, lower the ladder down when you're ready to get out.
I tell my daughters there are tests out here to take, but you don't have to take every test there is. There are someone else has taken that test.
It's so true.
And how did they do? There's some things you don't have to experience. And I understand that. And that follows you from childhood to adulthood. There are some things that you do not have to say, I got to experience that to know what the outcome will be. There are just some things you don't have to do. And if I can help you avoid failure in a certain area, I'm not saying be afraid of failure, because without a failure, sometimes there's not a lesson. You can't learn a lesson until you've tried some things. And then you're like, either that thing is going to defeat you, or that hard lesson is something you're going to be like, okay, I didn't take the right turn there. I'm going to look at this in a different, I'm going to take it a different route, or I'm going to go ask somebody who's done this and see if this is a good fit for me. So there's so many different ways we can take on, obstacles and challenges in life, but just being realistic and understanding that there are some things that aren't meant for you. You don't have to do everything that's out there. If you do take on a particular experience, role, activity, task, try to be informed. You don't have to go it alone.
Yeah. It's even more so now than when I was growing up. I remember getting my first computer, the family computer, and I'm sure same for you. There is so much information out there. You can ask Google, Twitter, anything, and there are hundreds and thousands of people that will have the answers. There is no reason ever to do something blindly.
Right. I don't want to miss this great opportunity. You have so many people who say, I want to be a game developer. I want to create characters for a game, or, I'd love to be the voice for this character, or I'd like to be the inspiration for this character. You got so many people who grew up on cartoons, who grew up on playing games, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But how many people can actually say that they had a character in a game developed in their likeness? How many people can say that?
Actually, I feel like a few people now that technology is getting more popular, but honestly, it was probably the highlight of my
I was just fixing to say,
career.
you can say that. So just in case no one knows, you actually had a character inspired or made in your likeness in a game called, and I always mispronounce this, but is it Man of Medan or Medan?
I honestly don't know. I think it's Man of Medan.
So look up Man of Medan. You've got Google out there. But Stormy has a character that was made in her likeness, and the character's name is Fleece or Fliss. Is that correct?
Yeah. Fliss,
what was that
Felicity.
like?
Honestly, it was when I got the call from my agent, and that was actually the second game I was in. The first one, my agent called me about 3 or 4 years ago and told me this company had wanted to use my face as an asset in the video game. And usually, with models, you just get called for a job, you do the job, you get paid, and that's it. But unknown to them, I'm a huge gamer, so I'm like freaking out, and I'm like, oh my God, I can be in a game series. Send me, please. And then a couple weeks later, I got flown out to Serbia, which is where the studio was that was scanning everyone's faces for the video games. And I had never experienced or done anything like that before. It was a whole bunch of firsts. I got flown out there by myself, put in a hotel, and then the next day I go to the studio and they sit me down in this dome-like structure with hundreds of cameras facing into the center. They drew a whole bunch of dots on my face. And had me pull a couple facial expressions and really try to stretch my nose, my mouth, and and then they tell me that, we're using it for this game by this company, should be out in a couple of years, but this is what we've done with the other guys before. And, I'm just bouncing around the entire time being like, so show me, when is it coming out? And obviously you have no idea because, as you're just being scanned as an asset, you're part of their library, right? So my face is now part of their library on their computers in an archive somewhere. And the character that they used me for came later. And then one of my friends in Italy messages me and says, Storm, is that you? As they see a picture of me in in the magazine, and I'm just like, oh my God, they did it. It's me. It looks like, and yeah, it was incredible.
I'm gonna tell you, that is so surreal because, I myself am not a gamer, but my middle daughter is a natural at it, and she's expressed wanting to develop games. But, I just think that is so amazing to to have been selected. Now, I take it you weren't a part of any of the creative process. You just...
No, not in this instance. I was just the model. So I did ask them as many questions as I could. Just being a fan of games in general, I was curious how it worked. But once my face was scanned, I was sent home, and that was all I heard about it.
Okay, the $1 million question. Have you played the game yet?
Kind of. The thing is, with this game, I know I can die, and I'm just not ready to accidentally kill myself.
That is an honest answer.
Although pretty much all of my friends have gotten it, and they said, "Oh, we kept you alive. Don't worry, we'll play with you." And I'm just
what a wonderful support system.
I know. I'm just all right, I'll do it.
Well, that's great. That's amazing. So, I think that is so cool, and congratulations to you. And I wasn't aware that you had the opportunity prior to this particular experience. So that's amazing, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's something that if I could do it again, I would in a heartbeat. It's that, we all have our thing that we like. Some people it's fashion. For me and for your middle child, it's gaming, and to be immortalized in your favorite thing is, there's nothing quite like it. I'm just so happy.
It's that epic experience. So that's so cool. Well, hopefully, your character, I don't know if it'll be the Fliss character, or who knows where else you'll be reinvented or reinserted. And who knows, this time you'll be maybe a superhero of some kind and don't have to face, you can face immortality. Nice. So who knows what's in store for you. Well, Storm, it has been a true pleasure speaking with you today. Usually towards the close of, as I'm winding down the interview, I lend you the opportunity to, thank, I usually say the terms, send a shout out, but if there's anything that you wanted to mention, any projects that you might be working on, where we can follow you. I did fail to mention on Twitch. Okay. I do know that you offer a live stream on Twitch. If we were to follow you on Twitch, what is the experience that we would have with you?
So I used to stream quite a lot a couple years back, and then work happened and I got busy. But now that I'm back again, it's quite a bit of a variety channel. Sometimes we sit and chat and I talk about my experiences and work, because as you've mentioned, I do quite a variety of different things. So sometimes people ask me for advice. A lot of the times it's art, and then sometimes it's gaming when I just can't draw that day. So it's a little bit of everything.
Well, that's good to know. So as I stated, I want to give you the opportunity to mention anyone, any projects, where we can follow you for future projects, or just to keep in touch with you. This is your opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you so much for this amazing interview. I did have a lot of fun. It was such a great discussion, great topic to talk about, and I really hope, that people are able to resonate with this and the other interviews that you've had, and that it gives them some, good advice, something useful that they can take away from it, But if people do want to come chat with me or hang out with me, I do stream. I do have an Instagram and a Twitter. All my social media handles are the same. It's Stormy Jazzy with a Y. And I'm pretty active on, I would say, nearly all of them. Probably the easiest place to catch me is Twitter these days. A lot of the projects that I do work on, some of them are NDAs, which means I've had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which means I can't talk about them until they come out. But everything else, I exist online. But you may be interested to go hang out with my little sister, who you've interviewed before, Pixie Pew. She's a proper character, and I'm often lurking over there as well. So if you like anything that I said, you will love
that. Is true. I have I would love to be adopted by the family, just from my interaction. I haven't had an opportunity to meet. I actually have spoken with your mom, and I can't wait to actually interview her as well. So I'm waiting for that opportunity. So, but I have to just be honest with you. It's been a pleasure being able to speak with you today. And I believe I've spoken with a proper celebrity. So when I become popular, it will be because of Storm. So y'all mark this. This is the podcast that did it. So
oh no, that's so much pressure.
Thank you for extending this talent and this success over to me. So I appreciate it. But seriously, thank you so much. I know that you're very, very busy. I know that you're out and about now. I do want you to be safe as you are traveling. Everyone is dealing with this pandemic everywhere, but I do want to continue to extend success to you, continued success, and continue to stay safe, continue to stay the very transparent person that you have been with me today. Watching you on your stream, you're very engaging the few times that I have seen and participated. You've been very welcoming to me, and clearly you do not know me. But so I appreciate you for, again, giving me this opportunity. I appreciate it. And you're definitely providing information to individuals who need direction, who kind of need a push somewhere. And sometimes we just need encouragement. And so you've definitely done that. And I want you to stay encouraged, and please stay in touch. You are welcome back to the podcast at any point in time. But thank you. We've come to the close of another episode of the End User Talk podcast. I hope that what you've heard today will leave you feeling empowered. Thank you for listening. And remember, every day's a training day.